Section 1. The Whispers of History. A journey begins. There is a history hidden in the shadows. Quick. It is a story rarely told in full. It lives in the dust of ancient tablets and in the stone of forgotten hospitals. This is the story of the human mind. And it is the story of our long, difficult journey to understand it. For thousands of years, what we did not understand, we feared. Strange behavior was a mystery. It was seen as a curse. It was seen as a spiritual failing, or a sign of an invading demon. Our path to healing has been winding and slow, marked by profound cruelty and by surprising kindness. This is the evolution of mental health care. Section 2. Ancient Echoes. Spirits, herbs, and rituals. Our story begins long ago, in a time between 3000 BCE and 500 CE. In the ancient world of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece, the lines between the physical, the spiritual, and the mental were blurred. When a person's mind seemed to fracture, people looked for supernatural causes. An unseen spirit might have entered the body. A god might be angry. A curse might have been cast by an enemy. These beliefs were not born of malice. They were born of a deep need to explain the unexplainable, to bring order to the chaos of a mind in distress. It was the only language they had. Healers in these ancient societies were often priests or shamans. They were the intermediaries between the human world and the spirit world. In Mesopotamia, they inscribed their observations on clay tablets. These ancient texts describe rituals designed to appease angry gods or exorcise malevolent demons. They used incantations, prayers, specific ceremonies. In ancient Egypt, the medical papyri show a similar blend of magical and practical approaches. They recommended prayer spells alongside herbal remedies, massages, soothing baths. It was a holistic approach, aiming to restore balance to the entire person, body, and soul. Section 3. The Shadowed Halls. Fear and isolation in the Middle Ages. As the ancient world gave way to the Middle Ages, from roughly 500 to 1500 CE, the fragile light of scientific inquiry dimmed. In Europe, the dominant lens for viewing the world became religious doctrine. The mind in turmoil was once again seen through a spiritual and often sinister frame. Strange thoughts or behaviors were frequently interpreted as signs of demonic possession or a punishment for sin. The person was no longer just ill, they were morally compromised. This belief system fostered a deep and pervasive fear, not just of the illness, but of the person suffering from it. Compassion struggled to survive in this climate of suspicion. This era saw the rise of the first institutions dedicated to housing people with mental illnesses. These were not hospitals in the modern sense. They were often called asylums, a word that originally meant sanctuary but soon became synonymous with neglect. The most infamous of these was the Bethlem Royal Hospital in London, known colloquially as Bedlam. Its name became a word for chaos and madness itself. Here, and in similar institutions across Europe, the primary goal was not treatment, but confinement. Society wanted to hide away what it could not understand and what it feared. The ill were removed from sight, their humanity locked away with them. The treatments inside these walls were often brutal, reflecting the belief that the will of the patient needed to be broken. Chains were used to restrain those who were agitated. Section 4. A Glimmer of Light. The Dawn of Moral Treatment. As the 18th century unfolded, the winds of the Enlightenment began to blow through the halls of Europe. This was an age of reason, science, and a new emphasis on human rights. Thinkers began to question old traditions and institutions, including the brutal way society treated its mentally ill. A revolutionary idea began to take hold. People with mental illnesses were not beasts or sinners, but human beings who were suffering. They deserved not to be punished, but to be treated with kindness and dignity. This new philosophy came to be known as moral treatment. It was a profound shift, a glimmer of light in a long, dark history. Two names stand as towering figures in this movement. In Paris, after the French Revolution, a physician named Philippe Pinel was put in charge of the Bicêtre and Salpêtrière asylums. He was horrified by what he saw. Patients were chained to walls in filthy, unlit dungeons. In a bold and dramatic move in 1795, Pinel ordered the chains to be removed. He argued that the patient's agitation was not a symptom of madness, but a natural reaction to their inhumane conditions. He unchained them, moved them to sunny rooms, and allowed them to walk in the hospital grounds. He spoke to them. He listened to their stories. The turn of the 20th century brought with it an explosion of scientific and medical ambition. As doctors unraveled the secrets of the body, they turned their attention to the most complex organ of all, the brain. There was a surge of optimism, a belief science could conquer any illness, including those of the mind. This led to radical experimentation, a desperate search for a physical cure for mental suffering. The treatments that emerged from 1900 to 1950 were a double-edged sword, born of hope to heal, but often resulting in profound and irreversible harm. This was the era of the shock therapies. In the 1930s, doctors began inducing seizures and comas as treatment. Insulin coma therapy, metrazole-induced convulsive therapy, electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. In its early days, ECT was terrifying and brutal, often given without anesthesia or muscle relaxants, frequently causing broken bones and memory loss. The most infamous procedure was the prefrontal lobotomy. Developed in the 1930s by Agus Moniz, it involved severing connections in the brain's prefrontal cortex. It was promoted as a miracle cure for agitation, anxiety, and psychosis. Walter Freeman popularized a cruder, faster version, using an ice pick-like instrument through the eye socket. Tens of thousands of lobotomies were performed. The middle of the 20th century marked a turning point, a true revolution in the treatment of mental illness. The dark era of shock therapies and lobotomies began to fade with two monumental developments. The first was the discovery of psychiatric medications. In the early 1950s, a drug called chlorpromazine had a powerful calming effect on patients with psychosis. It was the first antipsychotic. Soon after, the first antidepressants and the first anti-anxiety medications were developed. For the first time, doctors had a tool to directly target the chemical imbalances in the brain that were believed to underlie many mental disorders. These new drugs had a dramatic and immediate impact. They could reduce hallucinations, calm mania, and lift the heavy weight of depression. Today, mental health care continues to evolve, blending technology, neuroscience, and emotional support. The journey from fear to understanding reminds us that treating the mind is one of humanity's greatest achievements. Virtual reality is a powerful tool for exposure therapy, confronting fears like public speaking, flying brain imaging, AI mental health tools, symbolic scenes of healing, families, open skies bringing help to more people in more innovative ways. The heart of healing remains the connection between a person who needs help and someone who listens with kindness.